So we're live on Facebook right now, Tommy, which is great.
Yeah, it's going right now.
Okay.
So you should be ready to begin pretty soon. Anybody who's not one of the presenters, I am going to turn your video off. So no offense as I turn your video off. And Mario, are you letting people in as we go here?
I am not.
I was.
Somebody is. Okay.
You
Good,
look
as
like
long
you're
as
big.
somebody
I'm
is.
used to doing the Zoom groups.
Okay, awesome.
Is that okay, Tommy?
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we're going to wait for a few more people to join. If you're just joining us, Mario, if you want to give them a little intro at all, or
Yeah. So welcome everybody to our July Washtenaw Fan Family Forum meeting. It's another Zoom-based call. If you're having problems accessing, well, you wouldn't know. If you're not on this call, you wouldn't know. But in any event, this particular meeting with these guests from Ellie's Place, it's been in the works now for quite some time. And it came about as a result of connecting with two people. Larry Burns from the Children's Foundation, who connected me with the CEO from Ellie's Place, Dan, who's awesome, and Mary Neff, who is on our advisory board, knows Nancy Bean from Ellie's Place. And as a result of those two people kind of saying, why don't we get together to let people in our community know more about Ellie's Place, that's how this came together. So thank you for joining us. You know, there are few places that I have come across in the years I've been involved in this community in Washtenaw County and other communities that I interact in that have, you know, I hate to use the term brand awareness because it really doesn't do justice to what Ellie's Place does every day for kids and parents and the community. But I haven't come across anyone who's ever said anything close to negative about Ellie's Place. And you guys are doing a great job, Peggy and Nancy. So we have as our guest speakers today, Nancy Bean and Peggy Gallenberti. And Nancy's going to take a few minutes to talk about the background of Ellie's Place, how it came to be, what they're doing now. Peggy is going to approach things more from a clinical perspective and take us through a PowerPoint. And I wanted everybody to know one of the reasons that this topic appealed to me is how often people approach me and not knowing what to tell me, knowing that my son died from a heroin overdose. And I get a lot of, for those of you who have participated in these meetings, I get a lot of crazy stuff. And I never hold it against anyone because I realize how sensitive and uncomfortable of a topic this is. But with the right coaching, you're going to know what to say and what makes people feel better. And just on a kind of a tangential subject, one of the things that's so awful about COVID, and I've said this at meetings, one of the things that works for me is hugging. Okay. And that ain't happening in COVID. In fact, you know, you get a lot of people doing this and, you know, fist pumps and, you know, that doesn't work for me.
Not the same.
No, it isn't. And, you know, I hope we get past these Zoom meetings. I love the technology. It's incredible. What I really, what I, sorry about that phone, you guys. What I really like about, oh boy. What I really like about this technology and what we've learned is that people who would not ordinarily grab a microphone to speak in front of 100 people at our fan meetings show no hesitation to ask us a question on the chat feature in Zoom. And I often have people privately sending me messages that everybody on this call can't see. And because some people don't even want to use the chat feature, they just want me to see the question and ask the question of Pam or Peggy or Nancy. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy Bean and Peggy to teach us all about a very important subject.
Thank you so much, Mario. Just really honored to be your guest tonight and really grateful for the opportunity to share the Ellie's Place mission with all of you. So we have a little slide presentation that we're going to walk through, and we're going to talk over it. And
Want me to start it, Nancy?
Sure. And you can put your questions in the chat box. We'll be answering them at the end. Mario will probably be looking at those and letting us know.
You know, and I always say too, if you have a question that you think is a little more complicated for typing, just let someone know and we can get your audio turned on.
All right, so here's our Ellie's Place presentation. I'm Nancy Bean, and I am on the development team at Ellie's Place, which means I get to do presentations to folks like you and introduce people to our mission, and then raise money because our program is 100% free to all who attend all of our programs. So it takes a bit of work to raise the money, and that's one of the things I do too. So Peggy, let's
hit that. How come that didn't show up before? But anyhow, I did hit it. Now it says you are viewing Peggy somebody's screen. And it says go back to what?
Can you mute? Okay, there we go.
Okay. And Peggy, maybe Peggy, could you introduce yourself?
Okay.
Oh.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
As Nancy said, I'm Peggy Gallenberty. I'm the program director at Ellie's Place, and that means that I oversee this.
Well, there's a,
whoops.
yeah, it's like a microphone with, it's green because I have it on mute now.
Sorry.
Tommy, are you there?
Huh.
Okay. So I oversee the services end of our work. I am a social worker. I have been a social worker for many, many years. My history is mostly with runaway and homeless youth and families until the last 8 years I've been at Ellie's Place doing grief and loss work with kids and families. Also grateful to be here tonight. Thank you. Go ahead, Nance.
So I think you have to run the slideshow.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure how to access that. Okay.
There you go.
All right. So just a little history about Ellie's Place. Almost 30 years ago now, Betsy and Woody Stover had a daughter, Ellie, who died at 11 months old. And they realized that their other children were grieving differently than they were as adults. And they established Ellie's Place. And the mission is to create awareness and support for grieving children, teens, and their families. And the vision is to assure that no child needs to grieve alone. The whole idea of our program is that kids can be with other kids their age in a group setting, basically 3 to 18-year-olds. So think about those little ones meeting with other 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds and then on up to the other groups, and being able to relate to someone at their same level about a death that probably would be really hard to find another person to really talk about it with. So we provide those peer grief support programs for kids. And we use sort of a play-based approach, basically activities, art, stories, games, movement, to just help the kids engage with one another and get them to start talking about, giving them, cues in those activities that offer an opportunity for them to talk about their grief. It's not a forced program, but it's a really natural way for kids to share. And then for the adults who bring the kids, parent or caregiver, we also offer an adult group, or we have several adult groups at the same time as the children are meeting. And those are led by mental health professionals. And it's also peer support based. So they're working with a similar loss, families, parents or adults who are whose child had a similar type loss, and they get to have that peer-to-peer connection with another adult. But the focus is really on parenting the grieving child. Okay, so we things are a lot different now because of COVID, as everybody knows. When we were in our building, right before March 13th or something like that, we were running 5 children's groups and 3 adult groups every night, almost 4 nights a week. We had just started a 4th night, and all of the groups were filled. We had people pending, waiting to get into a group. And so we're planning to get back to that as soon as we can. So this is sort of more of the typical night when we're in our building, where kids are divided up into age groups. And they have, as I mentioned before, the opportunity to work with other kids their age, and just sort of process their grief. And then the adults are with a similar type of loss, so spouse partner loss or child loss, suicide loss, or homicide, overdose, or other significant loss. So, and then the population that we serve are any families any kids who can get to our location, who has experienced the death of a person in their life. And those support groups happen for as long as the kids want to be with us. They can stay. Some kids and families stay for 6 weeks. Others stay for years, and it's up to them to decide when they are ready to move on. Okay, and then the other part of our programming, we have this amazing Ellie's group, which is a school-based group that I think we were in 25 schools when everything kind of got put on hold, mostly middle and high schools. And we did an 8-week, we will be doing again an 8-week school-based session for the kids who have barriers to getting to our building. And we offer those programs in conjunction with someone from the school, a social worker or counselor, and it happens during the school day. So they don't even have to stay after school. We set it up so that they can go to a class and process grief, and it's been extremely effective. We've had a lot of amazing responses from teens. It's really wonderful. So, and then the other thing we provide is clinical consultations. So we answer the phone and offer free resources and referrals to anyone who needs support around grief if we can't provide it, because we only really supply support for kids, children and teens, and their adult. But we will offer them other resources in the community that can help with other grief-related issues. And then we do presentations like this one to schools, churches, Rotaries, any organization who is looking to understand how they can support their community around grief.
Okay, so I'm going to talk for a little bit about what makes Ellie's Place unique. So we are the only organization in our area that is focused specifically on grief and bereavement. We're completely free, which is awesome. Nancy mentioned that our groups are open-ended. So we allow families to tell us when they feel like they're ready to move on, when they're done. So average is around 11 months that families participate currently in our on-site program. The peer-based support is not therapy or counseling. So that is one misconception that we hear fairly regularly. People call to get counseling or therapy, and what we do is pure grief support. We do not have any religious affiliation at all. We really want to be open and welcoming to everyone who is interested in coming. So that's really important to us. And then I think it's important to mention that while grief is obviously a sad topic, Ellie's Place is really a pretty joyful place. There's a lot of laughter and friendship and community. And I think a lot of times people say, oh, I don't want to come and cry for an hour, once a week. But then they walk in the door and they find that it's really not like that at all. It's really a lot of connection and hope and conversation. The basic premises of our work is that grief is normal, that we all have experiences that we have lost something, whether it's, moving or a relationship or a home, any loss at all, that grief is unique to everyone, that we believe it lasts a lifetime. It's not sort of that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross 5 stages where you move through and then you get to acceptance and you're done. We don't see it that way. We believe it's lifelong, and it's sort of more like a roller coaster spiral, comes and goes. Again, it doesn't go in any kind of stages or orders. It's just kind of take it as it comes every day. We believe firmly that everyone has the capacity to heal if they have the proper support around them. That's why Ellie's Place exists. And that's why things like FAN exist, so that you all have one another as well.
So
That's
the
unique.
loss is common idea is really something I think that we are trying to communicate tonight and always, is that there's probably people in your community who have experienced a death and that you don't know about. We know that 1 in 12 children in Michigan will experience the death of a parent or a sibling by 18. In Washtenaw County, that equals almost 8,000 kids. And that doesn't include, the death of an aunt or uncle or grandparent or really good friend or neighbor. So, we all experience that, and kids are going through it and often don't have a place to talk about it. So we're happy we have that. We know that before the age of 20, 9 in 10 people will experience the death of someone important in their life. So it's likely that you're going to encounter grieving people in your life, and you may not know about it. But if you can think about a regular classroom of, say, 24 to 30 kids, that's a couple kids in each classroom who at an early age have lost somebody really important to them. So.
Okay, so when we are on site on our program in our building, this is what a night looks like. And now we're doing Zoom virtual groups Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings for kids and teens. And the evening looks pretty similar to this. But this is our on-site. So I'll kind of talk about any ways that it's different. So we utilize about 100 ongoing community members as volunteer facilitators in our groups. They go through a pretty extensive training with our social work team about how to be a group facilitator with kids and teens around grief. And so those folks are the ones that actually lead the kids and teens groups. So they arrive when we're on site around 5:30. They set up their group rooms, and then we come together for a briefing. There are about 25 volunteers each of our program nights. Plus we have 2 staff members, 2 social workers each night that are there to oversee and kind of move in and out of the groups and provide support and coaching to the volunteers. So, and we also manage the families and the volunteers that come on every night. We do a briefing. We come together with the volunteers and the staff. We just kind of talk about what's to come for the night And we often do little briefing topics, which are sort of mini trainings or education. Might be about, the time of year, it might be about holidays or back to school or whatever issues are happening. Around now, we're talking a lot about COVID, obviously, and how to talk about that with kids. Then when we're on site, we do a potluck dinner. All the families and volunteers bring a dish to pass, and we just come together, and that importance of breaking bread and being together in an informal way. And then we move into the groups, and the groups look like this sort of quick outline here. We do an opening circle where everyone in the group is invited to say their name, who in their life died, and if they know and if they're comfortable saying how they died. So it would look like, my name is Peggy, and my dad died and he had cancer. And then the next person goes, we go around in a circle and everyone can choose to participate or pass. And that's a really important way to kind of remind everyone why we're there for the evening and that we all have something in common and start to build some connections. So even the act of saying out loud your name and who died in your life can be a really, really powerful part of healing, that we don't talk about death in our society very well or very much. So giving kids as little as 3 and all the way through the adults the opportunity to say that out loud and start to acclimate and come to terms with it is sorry, really important. Then we move into the activity for the evening. Sorry. Which is, as Nancy said, play-based. We do a lot of art projects and activities or movement activities. Each of the kids spend a little bit of time in our activity room, which is just a time to be kids, to run and jump and play and be with one another. Hope you get the opportunity to visit our center at some point and see the amazing space that we have. But that part of the activity room is just letting them be kids. A lot of times when there's a death in a family, it's sort of somber in the household and kids aren't sure that it's okay to talk about or play or run around, and they kind of feel guilty that they're, want to play. So we give them that space to just go be a kid and then come back and talk about the grief again. So the goal of every evening is really to provide an opportunity for the kids to talk about their person who died, share some memories, support one another. And then we always have some focus on coping skills. So if we're talking about anger, we're going to teach some ways to manage that anger. So that's kind of how a night looks. And then after an hour, the groups end, the families go home, we clean up, and then we come back together for debriefing. And this is, I think, a really, really important part of our night, and also one of my favorite parts of the night, because we get to come together with the volunteers and hear, sorry about my dog, hear all about their night. Who was there and how did the activities go, and did they have any challenges that they want some help or support with. And it's really an opportunity for us to take care of the volunteers who are taking care of the kids. So I think that's somewhat unusual in social service agencies, to spend that much time with the volunteers, making sure that they're okay. This is a big commitment. They come once a week for at least a year, and many of our facilitators stay much longer, many, many years. Some have been with Ellie's Place since we started here in 2007. So they're super dedicated, and we want them to feel good about their work and to be able to go back out into the world and not be carrying all those heavy stories from the children. Okay, let me flip. This you, Nancy?
Okay, so how do support groups help kids, right? So there's lots of different points written down here, and I could read them to you, or you can read them. But I think the most important key to why they work is because of the peer support. When a child meets another child, even during that circle time, when they're going around and saying their name and the person's name who died and how, they can really connect. They can say, oh my gosh, my mom died of a car accident too. And then they connect and they have that peer support. They're not alone. And really, the other big part of why this is really important is that there are so many places in our society where talking about death is just not cool. So we try to alleviate the stigma surrounding death and make it easier for kids to feel okay saying the words, talking about their person, saying that person's name. And we know that kids will come home from school, or, you know, parents will get calls after someone dies in their family and they say, oh, you know, so-and-so's classmate, you know, Susie's classmate is really getting tired of hearing about her dad's death, and it's really, we don't want to hear about it anymore. And so we don't ever do that at Ellie's Place. It's a place where they can talk and share. And that's just, it's just really important that they have the opportunity and they can also pass. So a lot of times there's a sense of loss of control when someone dies, and giving kids the opportunity to talk about it or to pass can be really empowering and help them get a sense of control back about their own feelings and emotions. So it's just a really great structure and a safe place for kids to work through their grief.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yep.
So there's a number, before I move on, I just want to say, if you guys have questions, please type them in the chat. We're used to doing these presentations very interactively and more conversationally, so it feels funny to just be talking. So feel free to type in questions, and Mario, interrupt if somebody has something to ask about.
Can you, so you can hear me right now, Peggy?
Yes.
You know, it's interesting, you guys talked about having a safe place to be and to talk and to be a part of a community of support. And one of the best compliments I ever had directed at Washtenaw Fan, and this was at our meeting just prior to, it was our last face-to-face meeting at 242 Church. And I had a participant come up to me and say, you know, I just figured out why I like coming to these meetings. I was like, I knew he had been coming for a year. And I was like, wow, you just figured it out now, huh? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, it's because I feel supported and I'm not judged here. And I just, it made my day.
Yeah.
And so I can understand what you guys just said, especially for these kids and the peer pressure, and even for the parents that you provide support to as well, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So sorry for interrupting. But
no, it's great. I love it. Feel free to jump back in.
Yep.
So a few things affect how people manage a death. One is their age. So we know that kids who are around 8 or under really can't understand and that death is permanent. So we hear little ones that say, I know Granny died, but is she going to come to our birthday party? So they know. And then we hear other people that say, like, this child was at the funeral and they saw their mom lying in the coffin. Why do they keep asking me when is mom coming back? And so, and she's, you know, and I was talking on the phone with this person who was a grandma, and she said, I'm grieving myself. I can't keep answering this question over and over. And so I very kindly had to say, you know what, you need to keep answering it over and over, because this little one can't really understand that mom's never coming back. So part of your job is, you're now parenting these little ones, is to be there for them and answer those questions as many times as you have to. So younger kids have a harder time sometimes at first because they don't understand this person's really never coming back. And then as kids get older, they have a different kind of concept that death is permanent, that it's going to happen to all of us, that it can happen in all different ways. So age, how we talk to kids is going to be different based on how old they are. Their personality, some of us are more resilient than others. Some of us are more sensitive than others. So depending on, you know, where you are and what personality traits you bring into the world will affect how you manage any kind of tragedy, but certainly a death. Those who have more coping skills tend to do better, especially if they're healthy coping skills. And that is something that we work on with them every single time we see the kids is, what can you do to feel better on a difficult day? Those are super important. If someone has had a number of traumas, in their lives or difficulties, or it may make it more compounded when they experience a death. It might magnify the past deaths or the past experiences that they've had. So somebody that's had a lot of trauma might have a harder time. The flip could also be true. It could be that they are pretty good at managing difficult things. But that's just one of the things that we look at. Someone who has a good amount of support from family, friends, community is probably going to do better if they have folks to talk to or a safe place to land when they're having a difficult day. That can be very protective. The type of death. So every death is terrible and tragic, and there's not one that's easier or harder. However, the way that you experience it might be different. So if it is a long, drawn out illness like cancer, where you have the opportunity to say goodbye, you see the treatment, you see the decline, that is in a lot of ways really painful. And then if it's a sudden traumatic, tragic death that's unexpected, a car accident or a murder or a suicide, those are just a different, you don't get to say goodbye. So that's a little bit different. They're both really hard and tragic. Some people tell us, I said goodbye for 3 years, every day. Every time I saw this person, I thought it was going to be the last time. So it's not easier or harder. They're just different. And they do impact how people cope. This one's big. The relationship with the person who died. Was it a close relationship? Was it a positive relationship? Was there a lot of conflict? Were you estranged from this person? That brings up a lot of feelings that then we, want to help provide some space to process and work through. But these are all factors that impact how we cope. Next. Okay, so here's the part that Mario wanted us to talk about. So when you encounter someone who's grieving, the most important thing is show up. Show up, be present, be authentic, be yourself, be that safe place for the person. We really advise that you listen more and talk less. So don't make it about you. Don't talk about the deaths that you've had. When someone has experienced a loss, a death, you just want to be there for them. Provide the space. Ask them, how are you? How can I help? What's today like for you? I think asking how are you is hard because people sometimes say, how do you think I am? Like my child just died or my spouse just died. But what's today like for you is a different way to ask that question. This is hard for us. I think in the world, when we come across somebody that is having a hard time, we want to cheer them up. We want to fix it. We want to make it better. We want to take it away. We don't do that at Ellie's Place. We want to provide that space. You can't fix the fact that somebody died. You can't make them come back. You can't even speed up the process of feeling better. So we just invite the facilitators to be present, to listen, to provide that space, to allow the kids to share and say whatever it is that they need to say. We believe that talking through and sharing, whether it is verbally sharing or through the activities that we offer, emotional expression. So we have these big giant bears in our activity room. And sometimes kids will jump on them and sometimes they'll throw them or punch them. And we just sort of reflect like, wow, you look really angry today. And just allow them to play that out and do whatever it is that they need in a safe way. Reflecting the feelings back is a really powerful way to show empathy. So if someone is having a really hard time, just kind of notice that feeling and reflect it back to them. And that can be really a powerful way for them to feel heard and seen and observed. And just being with them, I think, is really, really important. This quote, I think, is beautiful. Megan Devine, she wrote the book called It's Okay That You're Not Okay. And I highly recommend it. She's amazing. But this quote, acknowledgement is the best medicine we have. It doesn't seem like it should do anything, but when somebody is in pain and you look at them and you say, I see you, that's medicine. So if you think about a time in your life that you've been having a hard time or that you had a difficult time, to have somebody just show up and sit with you and allow you to say what you need to say and feel what you need to feel can be incredibly helpful.
It is.
Can I interrupt? Oh,
Go ahead. No, Nancy, you go. And
well,
then
I think this is just a great, I mean, I've been with Ellie's Place for over a year and a half, and I still, every time we have these conversations, I have more questions, but I think my instinct was always before like, oh, I should probably not say that person's name. Or I should probably not ask about it. But the truth is, and what I know now is that it's medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
To ask, how are they feeling about, their person's name. I mean, just like really practicing that is, I think, the way that we can learn to do it better.
Mm-hmm. And saying their name out loud is sort of feels like evidence that they were important, that they lived, that they were significant, that they matter. And I think we don't feel comfortable. We don't want to, oh gosh, I don't want to say that. It might be upset her if I do that. But really what it does is say that person was important, and it gives you a chance to share. Yeah. Were you going to say something, Mario?
Yeah, I was, one of my advisory board members, David Awadala, I don't think he was on, that he's on this call. He was on he was present during our board meeting, but he asked me to speak at something in Lansing in front of people on a big meeting that he was a part of. And I think there were 80 to 100 people in the room. And I got to tell you that I wasn't having a good morning. And I really didn't want to be there. And I really didn't want to be there because I was thinking about my son.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, quite candidly, I got up there and kind of opened myself up to these 100 people. And I told them what I just told you. I'm having a bad day. I really don't want to be here, but I know I committed to be here. So bear with me. And here's why I'm having a bad day. And just reading this quote, just opening myself up like that, I let them know I wasn't sleeping well. I let them know I had resting tremors since my son. I had doctors coming up offering to help me sleep. I had people saying if I do certain exercises, my resting tremors will. It was unbelievable. So I just wanted to acknowledge and verify that acknowledgement is critically important, and for me was the best medicine that I could ever have. And so, this is why we do what we do at FAN when we pass the microphone. Nancy Bean, you've been to our meetings where we've got to talk. And are we toward the end? I've been writing down questions here, but do you want to finish up?
Yeah. Yep. Let me go.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Sort of getting into the meat of it. So just want to acknowledge that for some people, some of these things might be comforting, but this is based on our 13 years of Ellie's Place. I've been with Ellie's Place for 8 years, hearing from folks that participate. Instead of saying, I know just what you're going through, because we don't ever know exactly what somebody is going through. Try saying something like, I can only imagine how difficult this must be for you. Instead of, it's important to remember the good things, try inviting them to share their memories. So maybe it wasn't good things. Maybe the memories that they have of that person are not happy or not good or not positive. If you invite them to share memories, then they can take it wherever they need to. If somebody experiences a death and you say something like, both of my parents died when I was your age, like, I get it. I know what you're going through. You don't. even if your parents died at the exact same age of the exact same cause, you have no idea what that person is experiencing. So again, inviting, would you like to tell me more? Would you like to say more about that? Whenever we say this one, my dog died last week, I know how you're feeling. I have pets. Pets are part of the family. Pets are huge and critical and important. But when you experience the death of a person and someone compares it to their pet, it doesn't always feel great. So that's just file that away. It's super important and powerful, but instead invite them to talk about, what is it that they're going through. I'm breezing through these because I don't want to run out of time. This is a big one that people really push back on. He's in a better place. That is spoken from a place of trying to provide comfort. And really all of these things, I think people are doing the best they can when they try to offer words of support or encouragement. But every single person I've ever talked to has said, the best place for my person is with me. Yeah. And if you're telling me that they're in a better place, that's not my experience right now. So again, we're trying to comfort, we're trying to offer support, but maybe comments on, I can imagine how much you miss having them here. That's what they want, that person with them, typically. Maybe not 100%, but typically. All of these, you should, you need to, or you have to. Oh gosh, people have so much advice for us when we experience a death or any tragedy. People want to tell you what you should do, how you should handle it, where you should be. You know yourself best. How about asking that person what feels right to you? What makes sense? What do you want to do? Shoulding people is not typically helpful. It also places you in a position of being above them and telling them how to be. So the theme in all of these is kind of just being present and trusting the person. Your mom wouldn't want you to be sad. How about instead say, it's okay to feel sad. Your mom died. Of course you're sad. I get it. Do you want to share more about that? Let them be where they are. Let them feel what they feel. Let them be exactly what they need to do in that moment. We don't always know what to say, so we say nothing. I think that when somebody dies, a lot of people disappear. People say you find out who your real people are when you experience a tragedy, because it's the people that show up and keep coming around. But sometimes when it's a death, people don't know what to say, so they don't say anything because they don't want to upset you. Say something. Just say something. Even if it's, what I wrote here, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. This last one is huge. The at least. Oh, at least you have other kids. Or, oh, at least you had 20 years with your husband. Oh, at least whatever. At least Mario's laughing because he heard it.
Peggy, let me tell you what the problem is with these things.
Yes.
You're asking people to care and to be present.
Yep.
And my experience, unfortunately, is that this requires you to really become engaged. And you're asking them, all of these, you're framing it, or not all of them, but you're actually soliciting them to talk. Mm-hmm. And well, I'll tell you, a lot of people, hey, sorry, I gotta go.
Yep.
Okay, but this is what works. This is what's going to make someone feel better.
Yep.
And so anyway, keep going.
I always throw in that at least, because we find ourselves saying that a lot of times, like when any bad thing happens. But that one, hold on to that one. How to explain complicated deaths. So we at Ellie's Place, the last time I did the numbers, 37% of the families that come to Ellie's Place were affected by what we think of as a stigmatized death. So suicide or homicide or a drug overdose. So, close to 40% of our families have had tragedies like maybe some of you have. even with the little ones, we advise that you be as honest as you can, that you tell the truth, even when it's hard, even when it's difficult. You can't promise a child, and I know we want to protect our kids. Like, that is what we hear all the time. Like, I don't want to tell them it was a suicide. They're too young. They're going to hear it someday, somehow, some way. They're going to find out. We have lots of stories from kids who are very upset when they find out that their parent or sibling or whoever it was died of an overdose or a suicide. In particular, those are the two that tend to be protected types of death from kids. And I've never, ever heard a child say, I wish I had been lied to, but I can't tell you how many times I've heard a kid say, why did they lie? Why didn't they tell me the truth? What happens is when they do find out, then they have to start to question you about every other thing that you've ever told them. So I get it. It's hard to find the words to say, your daddy made his body stop working. And his brain was mixed up and confused, and we think he wasn't thinking clearly. And that's really hard. And those words are hard. And we practice with our facilitators and with one another, and on the phone when people call, to find the words that they feel comfortable with in sharing. I have another little story of, it was a drug overdose, and the parents thought the kids were too young to hear it. So they told them that, I don't actually remember what the story was, but the little girl said to me, do you want to hear what happened to my brother? And I said, sure. And she said, a really bad man in a blue truck came and stole him and killed him. And the mom looked at me and looked at the child and said, that's not what happened to your brother. And she said, yeah, it is. And she didn't know what to say, but what happened is the brother died of a drug overdose. He took too much medicine and he died. And that, to me, feels a lot more easy to take than a child who's wandering through the world looking at every blue truck that goes by and terrified that they're going to come and get her too. So when you think about it, like, in perspective, telling the truth is actually a kindness. That being clear and being concrete with a child, even when it's hard, is really a kindness, because then they grow up with that reality, and you can layer more information over time until they come to a full understanding. But this is the part where I want to hear from people, but but we don't have that opportunity. So I invite you to think about it, and if or when you come across this issue, to try your best to be as honest as you feel comfortable, and even comfortably uncomfortable is okay. Keeping it really simple, just a short, quick phrase. Again, layer more information over time, invite those questions. I'll go to the next one. It's kind of moving on. It's okay to say, I don't know. We don't know. We don't have all the answers. It's okay to sit with your child and say, I don't know why that happened. It doesn't make sense. Sometimes things in life don't make sense. But if or when I get information, I will share it with you. And we'll continue to talk about this. To the extent that you can, reassure them of their safety. You have to be honest. You can't, as a parent, if your spouse dies, you can't say, I promise I'm not going to die, because guess what? It could happen. So you can say,
this slide,
yeah,
in particular, right now we're talking about grieving and
yep,
death, but I'm looking at this slide, even thinking about people who are raising children whose parents might be struggling with addiction.
Yep.
I'm looking at this slide and thinking all of these statements,
yep,
parallel what I just described.
yeah,
If you're a grandparent and you're raising a child, it's okay to say you don't know.
yep,
You certainly need to reassure them that they're safe.
mm-hmm,
You want them to feel that it's okay to ask questions. And I was wondering, you talked about get kids talking. What if a child isn't talking? What tricks does Ellie's Place have up your sleeves? I've been to that amazing facility. And for those of you who have never seen it, it's on the west side of Ann Arbor, and you've got to go, because I told Nancy when I was first in there that the place should be an Architectural Digest. I mean, it's wonderful. But what do you do with a kid that doesn't want to talk?
That's an awesome question. Well, first of all, we give them permission to take their time. So if or when some people are not talkers, some people don't process out loud, we provide activities, art projects. We provide a lot of projective play opportunities. So we have a sand tray with lots of figurines where kids can play out stories. We use puppets. We use a lot of drawing activities and art, and we allow the kids to process through art. And then they can either share it out loud in the group with the others, or they can just throw it in the trash, or they can take it home and talk about it. But allowing them to use play to work through some of their feelings. And then we've actually had kids that came for months and months and months and never said a word, like nothing, I've never said a word, and then came back later and said how helpful and healing it was just to be in a space where other people were talking, other people were sharing, and they still felt that kinship and they still felt like they weren't alone. Just the power of not being the only person carrying the weight of a death or a tragedy can be super healing. So it's okay. It doesn't mean that your kid's not grieving if they're not talking about it. Let it unfold the way it needs to. And sometimes kids come for a long time, and then the first time they say out loud, my name is Sally and my daddy died and he shot himself. It's like, wow. Okay. And it maybe take a long time to get there. But that's really powerful. So I think giving kids permission to grieve in the way that they need to, and to not assume that they're not grieving because they're not crying or talking. So yeah, art and games are really powerful. We also do a lot of adaptive games, like we'll use the game Jenga with questions. So the kids are sitting around a table and they have a Jenga game, which they've probably played, dozens of times. But at Ellie's Place, we adapt it. So when they take out one of those bars and then we ask a question like, what's different in your family since your person died? And then everybody in the room gets a chance to answer. People are really sad now, or we don't have meals together anymore, or I don't want to play soccer because daddy was my coach and now it doesn't seem worth it. So it's just inviting a question and then allowing them to participate and learn from the other kids. I think that all deaths, but especially the complicated deaths, any conversation is a one-time, it's the start of a lifelong conversation. So again, inviting those questions and let them know, like, if or when you have questions, I'm here. It can be the middle of the night. It can be, whatever time of day or night. If you have a question, I want to be here to answer it. So inviting and opening up that opportunity and knowing that it's not a one-time. And again, you don't need to know it all. What's next? I think we have a couple more. I was thinking of this, Mario, when you were talking earlier about giving that speech. So there are common times that people re-experience a loss or a death. All of these that are on here: holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, any move or life transition, a wedding, a graduation, special events, things like that. Grief triggers songs or smells or places that remind you of your person. Or the one that's not on here is, I always say, it may not be any of these. It might just be that it's Tuesday, or, it's 2 p.m., whatever. It's like, there doesn't need to be a trigger. Sometimes it just comes up. So these are the times that if you know someone who has experienced a death, try to keep track of the date, or at least around the time of year, and think about contacting them on that day, because we're really good for the first few weeks or even the first couple months checking in on people that we know have experienced a death. But after a little while, we sort of move on with our lives, and we assume that the grieving person has as well. But that is still there. And around the time of the death anniversary, super powerful. People feel it in their bodies, and and their brains and their minds and everything. So checking in on them on those dates is really, really important. Then these are grief reactions of concern. All of these are really typical after a death, having difficulty concentrating in school and daily activities and feeling angry and guilty. And but if it's going on for a long time, like a period of months, and you're still seeing maybe increased aggressiveness, or you're seeing more social withdrawal or more isolating, more risk-taking behavior, certainly if suicidal thoughts are present or you're hearing or worrying about them, these are all times that you would want to get some professional support. So again, they're typical after a death, but if it's been going on for a while, or if you just have a worry about anyone in your life, whether they've experienced a death or not, these are all kind of important things that are, I don't know, I guess, orange flags, red flags, orange flags, to go ahead and reach out to them and say, how you doing? Are you okay? I'm worried about you. And then if you are the parent or guardian or caretaker of the person, to get them some extra support. And then this is the end. This is how to reach us. So Ellie's Place is not a crisis center. We're not there 24/7. We don't have work cell phones that we answer around the clock. We're pretty much 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Our practice is to return all family calls or program calls within 1 business day. So same day or next business day. We take that very seriously. And we're really good at it. But we may not be able to pick up the call right when you call the first moment. So especially right now, we're all working remotely still. So those calls are going to go to voicemail, and then we will return again, same day or next business days. Families who are seeking support from Ellie's Place do need to contact us directly. However, we invite everyone to contact us at any time. If you have a question, we love to talk to people in the community. If you know somebody or have questions about grief or how somebody in your life is doing, we invite you to go ahead and give us a call. We're happy to talk to anybody. But if there's a family in need of support, we're going to need at some point to talk to them directly, just to make sure that we have the opportunity to give them some support and answer their questions.
That's it, Peggy?
That's it. Questions?
I know I saw a question come up, but I think it may have been answered during the presentation, although I'm not sure. Send me that question again that came very early on. But I had a question,
Mario, before you ask your question, can we just share that the chat room is a place where people can type their questions in? I don't know if everyone knows it's there. It's on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I can't see the chat room. Can we take the PowerPoint down?
That's a great idea. Yep.
Maybe that would help.
Stop share.
There we
Yeah.
go. Okay. So if you've got any questions, go ahead and shoot them to us. But Peggy, you talked about, you actually are spending some time talking about COVID. How do you talk to about COVID with kids?
It depends on the age of the child, and certainly every family has their own way of thinking about it, but we sort of talk about it as there's a germ out in the world, a virus that we have to take precautions to be careful. I was talking more about like a COVID related death because
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But the deaths are, as most of us I think know, people sometimes go in the hospital and they die and you never get to see them. Like it's different than other kinds of death where, if there's a car crash or something, that typically we get to go and say goodbye. So with a COVID related death, that there's a whole nother layer of, we can't have funerals right now, and we can't have viewings at the funeral home, and all of those kind of typical mourning rituals are not available. So that's kind of we're at the back end of that, coping with the after effects.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Did anybody else have any questions? I think Mary, shoot me a question or a chat was your question answered earlier? I saw something come over from Mary, and you can just let me.
Yes, I think they answered it very well.
That's what I thought. So, all right, awesome. If if no one else has questions, we are going to make the Ellie's Place PowerPoint available
Okay,
on our website. If you guys would be so kind as to send that to me,
be happy to.
we'll get it published on our website. And you guys do awesome work. I mean, anybody that spends time helping kids is a big hero and winner in my book. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for participating today and enlightening us on all that you're doing. Yes, okay, Chad is awesome too. Dr. Brummett, whose wife is a volunteer.
Hi, Chad.
Yeah. You know, let me see, I might have some more.
Oh, it's Kate and Chad. Hi, guys.
There they are, awesome. Back from Australia since last week.
Yay.
So, wanted to talk very briefly about our next meeting. You guys, Peggy and Nancy, might be interested in the next topic, but we have, at every fan meeting that we were doing at the 242, I haven't talked about this via Zoom, but I had a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist with the Ascension Health Program, Dr. Deb Hollander, tell me that, until we start sharing our stories and stop pointing the finger, everybody see that's doing this relative to addiction, we're never going to make progress. So I put that PowerPoint slide up on the screen so that everybody hopefully feels a little bit more comfortable about grabbing the microphone and sharing their story. So that psychiatrist, Dr. Deb Hollander, is our guest speaker for August. And she's coming to talk about yoga, believe it or not, and the physiological changes that happen to the brain when one is meditating and doing breathing exercises, and how that can be helpful to you in recovery. So she is not only an MD, she's a psychiatrist, she's an addiction with a subspecialty in addiction. She's also a trained yoga instructor, and she's just got this infectious personality. She's one of my favorite people, and I want to encourage everyone to join us next month. I'm not sure yet, everybody, if it's going to be face-to-face at the 242. We're talking with 242 now to try to get them to do both Zoom and 242 face-to-face, because I just got done expressing that I love the chat feature and that's associated with Zoom, and it lends itself to people opening up. So just second Monday in August is going to be Dr. Deborah Hollander, psychiatrist, with her daughter, who is a psychologist who will be Zooming in from California. She owns 3 yoga studios, and she's going to share how her personal experience in leveraging yoga has helped people in recovery. So
That's cool.
Great topic. That's all I've got. If there are no more questions, wait, we got some chats here. Oh, everybody's saying thank you. Looking forward to the
Thanks,
meeting.
everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys are great. I just want to leave with this. You got to get to see that facility in on the west side of Ann Arbor. I'm referring to Ellie's Place.
Mhm.
It's really, really awesome. So with that, I'm going to close it up. Nancy, do you want to say anything?
Oh, I just want to say, as soon as we can give tours, we will, and just keep checking our website because we'll put up tour dates. We've done a few virtual tours. something like this, but on Zoom. But we'd love to have you into the building when we can get back in there. So keep an eye out on our website for that. And we have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page and
All the social
Twitter.
medias.
Yeah, so you can
Well,
find us there.
If there's anything that we missed or that you're wondering about, please feel free to shoot an email. If you go to our website, you can find me or Nancy. And again, we love talking to people, so call anytime. And if you think of a question later, shoot us an email or contact us through Mario or whatever you like.
And if someone wants to volunteer, just call. And are there, Peggy, are there
Just
requirements?
No requirements other than being a compassionate person who's willing to give of their time. And again, we do the training and we do background checks and just to make sure that everybody is safe that works with our kids. And then we train and coach and support folks. Thank you, whoever put up our website.
Angela Galka from the University of Michigan Addiction Treatment Clinic.
Great.
You know, one of the reasons I wanted to get our folks exposed to you is, you know, for whatever reason, like I learned about Ellie's Place years ago. My wife is a trained child life specialist. She was talking about Ellie's Place. I had not heard of it. And I think it's time that people start learning about Ellie's Place from someone other than their wife. And you know, it's kind of the same with yoga. It's not something just your sister, your aunt do. You guys need to be more mainstream. And that includes, you know, it's just everybody. So listen, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for giving up your Monday evening. Yep, Dr. Grummett's clapping. And we want to do more with you. If you guys, you know, when we get past this, if you're serious about yoga for kids and teenagers, Washing Off Fan is all in. Okay. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Mario, for everything. Great to see you all.
Have a great night.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you.
Bye.